You have seen this man before, even if you never met him. He is at the end of the bar, 3 drinks deep, and he leans in to tell you he was on SEAL Team 6. He was there the night they got bin Laden in Abbottabad. He has the trident tattoo on his forearm, the 1,000-yard stare, the story sanded smooth from 100 tellings. And every time, from the bar stool to the viral parking lot video, the lie reaches for the same door. SEAL Team 6. Never the army guys nobody is supposed to talk about. That last part is the tell, and once you start looking for it, you cannot unsee it. The men who fake this reach for the trident. They almost never reach for Delta. Think about how strange that is. If you were going to invent a past, you would want the version that can never be checked. Delta Force is the most secretive unit the United States fields, and the Army will barely confirm it exists. On paper, that should make it the perfect lie, an unfalsifiable claim wrapped in classified fog. And yet the fakers walk right past it, every time, and grab the one Tier 1 unit that has a paper trail a mile long. To understand why, you have to understand one thing first. A stolen valor claim is never really about the medal, it is about the audience. Start with the size of the problem, because it is bigger than almost anyone guesses. The FBI has estimated that for every living Navy SEAL, there are roughly 300 imposters walking around claiming the trident. 300 to 1. There are only about 2,700 active duty SEALs at any given moment, and somewhere near 7,000 living men who have ever earned it, which works out to about 1 real former SEAL for every 45,000 Americans. The fakes outnumber the real ones by a margin that would be funny if it were not so common. One retired SEAL who spends his days running these claims down says he personally checks somewhere between 20 and 30 of them a day, and he thinks the FBI number is low. A beer distributor once surveyed bartenders on the lines they heard most, and the single most common was a man claiming he used to be a Navy SEAL. If you have ever felt that flicker of doubt watching a man tell his war story, and wondered why the fakes always seem to pick the same unit, subscribe and stay with us. That open door, and the one he never touches, is the entire story we are about to walk through. So why the trident? Why always the SEALs? The honest answer is that the fake is chasing a feeling, and the SEAL brand is the most reliable way to buy that feeling in American life. Somewhere along the way, the SEALs stopped being a quiet maritime special operations force and became a franchise. On the 2nd of May 2011, a SEAL team fast-roped into a compound in Abbottabad and killed the most wanted man on Earth, and the unit went from respected to mythic in a single night. 2 years before that, 3 SEAL snipers had ended a hostage standoff off the coast of Somalia, firing together from the fantail of a moving warship at dusk to drop 3 pirates in a single volley, the rescue that Hollywood later turned into a Tom Hanks film. The public had faces now, it had names, and it had books. A SEAL who survived a mountain ambush in Afghanistan wrote a memoir that became a #1 bestseller and then a feature film. A SEAL sniper wrote another one, and Clint Eastwood turned it into one of the highest-grossing war movies ever made. A member of the bin Laden assault team wrote a first-person account of the raid itself. This was not new. The SEALs had been movie material since the 1990s, in films like The Rock and Black Hawk Down, and one action picture even cast actual serving SEALs in the lead roles. The trident became something you could buy at an airport bookstore, watch on a Friday night, quote at a party. It became shorthand for the hardest, most dangerous, most admired thing an American man can say he once was. That is what the imposter is really taking from the SEALs. A story the whole country has already agreed to call heroic, handed over for free. When a faker says SEAL Team 6, he does not have to explain much of anything, because the audience has already seen the movie. He is borrowing a myth that does most of the work for him before he even opens his mouth, and the brand keeps feeding itself. Every raid that makes the news, every book that climbs the list, every movie poster in a theater lobby writes another page of the script the next faker gets to read from. By now, the audience knows the beats better than he does. He barely has to perform. He just has to stand inside a story the country already believes. And the motive underneath it is always the same: the hunger for the respect and admiration of other people. The whole point of the lie is to be admired, so it has to be a name the crowd already knows and already loves. Here is where the story turns, though, and it turns hard. The same fame that makes the SEAL claim so tempting is exactly what makes it so easy to destroy. The SEALs are famous, so the SEALs are documented, and anything the Navy wrote down is something you can go back and check. BUD, the brutal selection course every SEAL passes through in Coronado, is not a classified program. It is an unclassified Navy school, and the Navy keeps records the way any school keeps records, with names and dates and graduating classes. Those classes are numbered, running from Class 0 back in the early 50s up past Class 300 by 2012. Every real SEAL knows his class number the way you know your own birthday. It is the first thing out of his mouth and the last thing he would ever forget. Which is why the men who hunt fakes ask for it first. That retired SEAL who checks 24 claims a day has built a database of every man who has graduated BUDC WUS. When somebody phones in a suspected phony, he does not argue and he does not debate the war stories. He scrolls to the surname, looks for the class number, and the whole invented career falls apart in about 10 seconds. The fakes give themselves away trying to cover the gap. They cite class numbers that never existed. They invent training courses with names no real pipeline ever used. Their ribbons sit in the wrong order on a uniform they bought online, an army patch above the pocket, and a Navy device on the sleeve, the kind of mismatch a real operator spots across a parking lot. And when you push them, they fall back on the oldest line there is. It is classified. I could tell you, but then I would have to. A real operator almost never says that. A fake says little else. Plenty of them hang up the phone the second the class number comes up, which is its own kind of answer. So the fame cuts both ways. The trident is the most glorified identity in the military. It is also, quietly, one of the easiest to disprove, because the imposter grabs it for the glory, and the glory is what gets him caught. All that fame left a deep paper trail, and that trail is exactly what trips the fakes. Now turn and look at the unit the faker walks past. Delta Force is the reverse of everything that makes the SEAL brand tempting. The United States government has, to this day, never truly acknowledged that Delta exists. It is the classic open secret, the thing everyone in the room knows is real, and nobody with a badge will say out loud. Journalists have written about it for decades. Historians have documented its founding. Former members have published accounts. And still the Pentagon will not release a fact sheet. The Army has never printed an official unit history you can hold in your hand, and when Delta has to appear in a budget document, the money hides under a bloodless label, the Army compartmented element, so the funding moves while the name never surfaces. Even the name is a moving target, and that is on purpose. What most people call Delta has cycled through a whole drawer of designations to keep the trail cold. First Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta on the founding paperwork. Later the Combat Applications Group. Then the Army Compartmented Element. Inside the community they are Unit, the Unit, or Task Force Green, or just the D-Boys. The labels keep changing so the shape stays blurry, and the blur is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And if you have followed us this far into the weeds, you already know you are not a casual viewer. You are one of us, the people who notice the tell, who actually care whether the story holds up. There is a cadet spot on this channel, built for that crowd. Every video a full day before it goes public. A badge next to your name, a shout in the credits. If that sounds like you, the door is open. The men themselves are built to vanish. A Delta operator signs away the right to ever tell you what he did, for the rest of his life. When one of them does get named in public, it is almost always for the worst reason. A Medal of Honor citation read over a flag-draped coffin, or a memoir published years later and quietly vetted, line by line, before it ever reaches a shelf. A few of those books do exist. A founding member wrote one at the start of the 2000s. A former squadron commander wrote another about the hunt for bin Laden in the mountains, and he did it under a pen name, because even telling the truth about Delta gets told through a mask. Those are the rare exceptions, and they only show how sealed the rest of it stays. There is no franchise here. There is no airport bookstore shelf, no Blockbuster, no trident you can ink on your arm and have the whole bar nod along. The anonymity is physical, not just paperwork. Operators are pulled quietly out of other units, told to grow their hair out and drop the clean shave, and stripped of the name tapes and rank a regular soldier wears on his chest. The whole ethos, borrowed in part from the British SAS at Hereford, is that the best man in the room is the one you would never look at twice. You are not supposed to be able to pick him out in a grocery store, let alone across a bar. A faker cannot borrow a look that was engineered to be invisible. That was the design from the very first day. When the founder stood the unit up in the late 1970s, the profile he screened for was not just the fittest body or the fastest shooter. He wanted a specific kind of man, one who could operate completely alone, in total ambiguity, with nobody clapping, and who would never once need the credit for it. The quiet professional. From the first day, the unit screened for men who did not want the spotlight the imposter is desperate to stand in. So here is the real question, the one that cracks the whole thing open. If Delta is unfalsifiable, if there is no public list to check a claim against, why is faking Delta not the perfect crime? Why does the imposter, who by definition wants to get away with it, skip the one claim that is almost impossible to disprove? Because he is not actually trying to get away with it. He is trying to be seen, and Delta gives him nothing to be seen for. Start with the glory, since that is what he came for. There is no myth to borrow. When he says SEAL Team 6, a whole room lights up with borrowed pictures, the raid, the movie, the sniper on the roof. When he says Delta, most of that same room is not even sure what he means, and the instant recognition the lie runs on simply never fires. A stolen valor claim is a performance, and Delta hands him no stage to stand on. Then there is the lore, and this is where fakers drown. To fake a unit convincingly, you need texture, the slang, the schoolhouse, the small inside details, and the SEAL world hands all of that out in paperback. Delta does not. The real texture of that unit, the selection, the operator training course, the culture inside a squadron, was deliberately kept out of the public record, so there is almost nothing for a con man to study. He cannot crib what was never printed. He opens his mouth and there is fog where the details are supposed to be. And then there is the community, which is the quietest and most dangerous part of all. The people who could expose a fake SEAL are loud and organized. There are verification pages built for nothing but the Trident, and broader stolen valor trackers run by veterans that catalog every busted claim they can confirm. That whole machinery exists because the SEAL name became public property, and public property is worth policing. The people who could expose a fake Delta operator are the exact opposite. They are invisible, they do not advertise, and they recognize each other by things no outsider can see. A man claiming the unit is not gambling against a public database. He is gambling that no real operator is ever standing in the room, and if one is, there is no bluffing him for 30 seconds. The rare Delta claim that does surface tends to get taken apart fast by the very community it tried to sneak into. That is the strange part. A claim almost nobody could disprove still falls apart in a hurry, because the only people who can disprove it are exactly the ones he is pretending to be. There is a real cost hanging over all of this, and it is worth naming plainly. Since 2013, faking these honors for money or some other benefit has been a federal crime. It took 2 tries to get there. An earlier, broader version of the law was struck down by the Supreme Court, which ruled that simply lying about medals, ugly as it is, was still protected speech. So Congress narrowed it to fraud, to the liar who cashes the story in for money or a job or a benefit. In practice, prosecutors bring these cases rarely, and most fakers never see the inside of a courtroom at all. But the courtroom was never the real punishment anyway. The real punishment is the moment a genuine operator is standing there, and the story just dies in the faker's throat. So watch the pattern one more time, now that you can read it. The imposter stands in front of 2 doors. Behind one is the most famous unit in the country, a myth he can wear like a jacket, with a tripwire underneath he never sees. Behind the other is a unit so secret the government pretends it is not there, a claim almost nobody could ever disprove, and no applause at all. He picks the famous door every single time. He picks it precisely because it is famous, which means the empty space where a Delta claim should be is not empty at all. It is the most revealing part of the whole con. What a man chooses to fake tells you what he believes the world owes him, and these men never fake the unit that was built to disappear. They fake the unit that was built to be admired, because being admired was the only thing they were ever after. The operators who actually earned that second door spent their entire careers making sure you would never learn their names, and that is the one thing no liar can ever counterfeit. If you want the cut details we trimmed for time, the specific tells the hunters listen for, and the ones that did not fit here, the official tier is where those live. But before you go, we want your read on it. Is the man who fakes Delta rarer because he is smarter, or because somewhere deep down he already knows there is no crowd waiting behind that door? Tell us in the comments, and tell us which unit you would trust a stranger's story about the least.